So thanks everybody for joining me on this. I guess this is episode. This is meetup number 17, I believe. And this week we are gonna talk about. I'm gonna show some of the behind the scenes production stuff and where I'm at on my schedule, as well as show some M8 use cases with external hardware and stemming. And I believe A Rival's going to join to talk about drum synthesis and how to do drum synthesis on the M8. So just an update for the production. I got the circuit boards that were supposed to be delayed until mid next month. I got them on Thursday, and I've been testing assembly and just the failure rate of the boards, and it looks pretty good. Doesn't look like, I think I had one unit that I need to, what we call reflow. I have to reflow one unit out of 100 randomly selected, so it doesn't seem too bad. But what it's looking like is probably, I want to say the beginning of next month is when orders will start to ship. Before then, I have to get basically some help in the shop to help me do the final production, as well as packing and shipping. Packing and shipping is actually really easy. It's the final assembly that's kind of tedious. But and I also need to finish website changes because I have QR codes on the packaging, and right now that QR code goes to a 404 page because I did the I had to get all the print out for the boxes and the stuff that comes with the M8. I had to get all that done over a couple months ago, knowing that eventually I'll have something on the website for it. So, but yeah, I need to get that stuff done. Meanwhile, I'm starting to do the final assembly myself, but I can't do all of these things simultaneously, so I really need to find some helping hands. Whoa. But yeah, I'm gonna, let's see. I guess I'm gonna show this little video and talk over it of kind of behind the scenes of the M8, putting what I have to do for final assembly. You please keep in mind that it's really clunky because I have like my phone on a gimbal attached to me, so it's like I'm far away from what you're gonna see in the video because I'm doing it all myself. So you'll watch me like struggle through the video trying to do things that normally take a fraction of the time. But I still think it's kind of cool to see like some of the units and, show you what I have to do with it. So let's get, yeah, that one. So hopefully y'all can see that. I assume you can. So this is me putting basically I have to take out all these speakers and just line them up to all the units to then solder down the wires to the speakers, or solder the wires from the speakers to the PCBs. This normally takes a fraction of the time, but yeah, basically doing this. Some nice soldering or bad soldering. I'm like 3 feet away from what you're looking at right now, so it's a lot trickier from my perspective than the cameras. And then these speakers are kind of sticky back, and I pull off the sticky tape to then align the speakers and plop them down. Super exciting. I could fast forward some of this. Yeah. Once the speakers are done, the next portion is the display. Basically a plastic frame needs to be put on the display, and then a little sticker backing. That backing helps against some of the light leak, because I'm pretty particular about that. So you can see that on that display where there's that metal shield kind of thing where it stops halfway through or a quarter left of the display and it doesn't have that metal backing, and in that gap you could see a little bit of light leak. So I end up putting a piece of tape there. Putting the plastic on the display and then putting the ribbon cables through the PCB. Again, the struggle in this video is real. The plastic has tabs on it that snap into the PCB, and that's what I was doing there. And then the good old ribbon cable. Yep. And that's pretty much it. The next step would be the flashing it, I think. Oh no, I'm putting on some little foam pads that help keep the speakers in place. The next step is to flash it to make sure everything works before plugging in the LiPo battery and all that. So that's me flashing it. Boop, 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 boop. And then you can see it's working. That's the battery and putting it on the connector. Just a standard JST connector with a small battery. Yeah. Then the next step is to put it in the case, which is, you know, that's the power button press switch that fits in the case, and then finding the unit, slipping the case on, and basically screwing it together. Yeah. Next steps are just basically cleaning it. The screws have a bit of grease on them to keep them from rusting when they're in their packaging, so I have to wipe that off as well. And then putting on the keys. The key switches, and then the keycaps, and the rubber feet. And that's pretty much it. The next step after that is to test it, make sure everything works, basically. You see my face in that shot? Yeah, so that's the video. But after that, it goes back into that velvet bag, and then it's ready for packing and shipping. But I have to do that a million times over, so that's what I'm kind of looking at. So again, updates are, I want to start shipping as early as toward the beginning of next month, this coming month, I should say. And I'll be sending out an email when it's more concrete. And I'm also working on a new firmware that needs to be flashed onto those units as well. I'm going to be using the firmware in this meetup. There's a couple little bugs in it that I need to work out that I'm finding as I'm doing this live stream. So exciting. Anyway, any thoughts or questions or anything else? Or nothing at all?
Sure, I speak for everyone here that we're all very excited and looking forward to the final package.
Yeah, so far I tested, I didn't fully assemble, I just like rushed and tested 100 units. Essentially just got the screens on there so I could see them all power up and their sounds working and all that stuff. But I wanted to get that done quickly just so I had a rough idea of the percentage of units that weren't working. But I have assembled 50 units that are basically sitting in their velvet bags ready, but it's just not time yet because I need to get that firmware completed and I need to get the help website up. I just feel bad like shipping those without that stuff done. And I think it's important to have like the whole thing up and running. So yeah, hopefully beginning of September, which is sweet because that's over a month sooner than my last update, which I was thinking that I was going to get the PCBs like late September and then start shipping sometime in October. And now it's, now it's over a month early. On that note, I guess if there's no more questions about the production stuff, we can move on to some of the topics for today. I guess I could start with the hardware stuff. I don't know. I don't really have a preference. Yeah, I'm going to do basically some concepts of working with external gear, and I'm going to be, yeah, let's set this up. Hold on. Turn on my camera. Switch over to top view. I'll line this virtual M8 up because I have a camera ready. Yeah. I have some gear set up here, but I'm going to make this big so you could actually read the screen. There we go. Moving my mic 1 second. So there's quite a few different things you could do with M8 in terms of MIDI. I went over them before, but I never really had a camera set up to kind of show some of them. So I think this might be a little bit easier to follow along maybe. But what I'm going to show first is this song row Q channel feature, which basically maps external MIDI notes will trigger song rows. And it's really good for using external gear like this Digitact. I'm going to turn receive sync to on. I'm going to leave transport turned off. And hopefully you could hear that okay. I also need to, like, this is going to be tricky because my table setup over here is so far away from the display, so I can't read anything if anybody says anything. But, let's see. So on the Digitact, it's already working, but on the Digitact, these bottom rows are basically MIDI tracks. And on this, I have track A set up to channel 11, which matches this channel 11 in the MIDI settings screen. And then I have the default note that gets inserted set to the first C0, basically the very first note. So when I trigger it, it's actually playing back the whole song, but of course I don't really have a song yet, so give me a moment. Let's just make this less generic. Nice pitch with some volume. You get the idea. My favorite song. And I'm gonna set up something else here. Different instrument, maybe a bass drum. I'm gonna use Mikey's pack. Do you have any kick drums in here? I bet you do.
I do. It's gonna be under, should be under percussion.
Pretty good. All right, it's gonna be the world's worst demo because I'm doing this live, but. I'm going to set up a second progression here. Probably just transpose it by 5. No. Yeah, that one. All right. So on the Digitact, I'm going to go into record mode and put in. So you can hear the Digitact right now. Currently, it's hooked up to the analog input on the M8. You can see it right here. So if I turn this off, it's So as I'm hold on, as I'm since I'm using a note to trigger the song row sequence, you could basically re-trigger that whole song row many times over. Oops. Let's see. I don't really use the digitech that much, by the way, so it's been a while since I've actually used it. But you kind of this is how I used to do my live sets with LSDJ and an Octatrack, where on LSDJ I made this mode where it was I don't remember what it's called. It's called like song something, Midi note something. I don't know. I don't remember what it's called, but there's a mode for MIDI input on LSDJ where when it receives a note, it will play that song row, and then as well it follows sync. So it's a good way if you have an external piece of gear that's basically the main controller, controlling it, and you being able to always have it be kind of locked to that external sequencer. Another way to do this would be something I can't really set up. I don't know if the Digitact actually does it, to be honest. It doesn't even say if it does. But there's another method where you just use the song. It's a MIDI standard. I think it's called SPP, or Song Position Pointer. Ableton Live and some of the DAWs have that as a feature where M8 will do it too. Will receive or send it under MIDI settings for the receive transport. It has a song mode on the receive, and that will, I've talked about this before, that will allow M8 to receive that SPP command, and it'll basically play back anywhere in the song when you hit start on the external sequencer. I'm not sure if Electron Gear actually supports that or not, but I know Ableton does. I'm actually not familiar with too much hardware that actually supports the SPP feature. But somebody can correct me if I'm wrong, but yeah. But yeah, that's, I don't know if there's other ways we could do this. I mean, obviously another way to do this would be to just not use the song note mode. Like if I just change it to a new channel so that way it doesn't work anymore. And then I set the receive transport to pattern mode. Then it's just like super basic. But if you want to start somewhere else in the song progression, then you're going to have to, it's going to start in the wrong position. Basically, it'll start whichever region you last played. So that this method's kind of annoying to use, in my opinion. If I have an external sequencer that is kind of the main heart of the setup, then I would probably just use no transport and use that MIDI row Q channel feature. I think it's way easier to work with. So moving on, I'm gonna change my setup here a little bit. See if I could do this. Let me get rid of the virtual M8. Somebody asked how the rows are triggered, or how are the rows mapped, basically, based on notes starting at C0. That is correct. So C0 plays row 0, C sharp 0 plays row 1, D0 plays row 2, et cetera, all the way up to 127 rows. So you kind of have to structure your song in under that many rows, you know. But that's kind of a lot of rows to work with. Yeah, I think it works really well. And if you have like what's kind of fun too is if you have a pre-existing song that you've already done, and then you use an external sequencer, you could kind of do like crazy little remixes just by mashing those incoming notes. You know, have them do things on the offbeat, etc. Got rid of my virtual M8 because I'm going to show you this fader fox. So by the way, I got like this kind of cable thing on Amazon. You can probably find them anywhere, but this is basically it swaps the left and right channels. So for stuff that's MIDI type B, like this has 1/8 inch TRS MIDI type B, and M8 is type A. You just have one of these adapters, and you know, it's just that. It's not really complicated to get that working. It's not as nice to just having it software switchable, but you know, it's not super inconvenient. All right, let's see if this works. MIDI settings, control map channels set to all. So in theory, oh, I have to turn off the sync. All right. Let's see if this works. Yeah. I don't know if you could see my screen. You can't see any of the screens, can you? What if I just zoom in? So all I did here was, let me redo it. All I did here is hold Option and then move to fader, and it automatically maps to that parameter. And then you could do it, I don't remember what the limit is, but it's something absurd. And then like the DJ filter, I could apply this to it. Yeah, it's super easy to basically MIDI map anything that has this little slider graphic on the screen, or any of the parameters on the mixer page can be MIDI mapped currently. And in the project screen, if you go to MIDI mappings, you'll see those mappings, as well as the range. You could set the minimum, maximum value it should affect. Yeah, so if I wanted this parameter to be backwards, I could do that here by setting the minimum to FF and the maximum to 0, 0. So now it's backwards. So hope you all find that useful. Yeah, I really like the fader fox. I mean, I'm not gonna plug them or anything, but I was looking for small MIDI controllers for this kind of setup, and this seems to fit the bill quite nicely. The only unfortunate thing is it's MIDI TRS Type B, so you need one of those little adapters. But other than that, it's pretty nice. If anybody has any questions, let me know. Does M8 also output the parameters value for display? Like for the encoders? Like for output the parameters value for display like for encoders. Well, I know that M8 doesn't work with encoders currently. Like if you're using endless encoder MIDI controller, that's currently not supported. I plan on adding it at some point, but on the MIDI settings or the MIDI mapping screen, it shows you what the incoming value is, if that's what your question is. So like when I go to MIDI settings here, you could see these values moving around. But yeah, endless encoders currently aren't supported. I should probably add it. It's not going to be hard to add. It's just one of those things that hasn't been done yet. Is there any way to record the CCs? No, not currently. I've thought about it, but every time, like, when I think about using that, I just think about how it's going to muck up my sequences, and I don't want it. Like, I'd rather just, sequence that stuff using rep and actually the right commands. But especially like and then as a programmer, I'd have to ask what happens when you have like 4 parameters of the same instrument mapped, where there's not enough command lanes to record that stuff. So it gets kind of confusing on like how we should approach those problems. But the MIDI input kind of control stuff was, at least for me personally, I was more concerned about live performance use, especially since the M8 doesn't have any knobs on it. I mean, it's got the touchscreen, but I personally don't like using a touchscreen in live performances. But yeah, we could always improve it over time too. Yeah, record mode which doesn't overwrite existing commands possibly. Yeah, that would be the way. That's kind of how like if you use MIDI input, I should actually probably show that too. Let me set that up, see if I can. That's probably another mode I should cover. Hold on a second. I have to set up my desk here. I'm grabbing a MIDI keyboard. Show you the MIDI input modes for keyboard. MIDI out. The advantage of watching this on YouTube is you could fast forward my fumbling. All right. And this is going where? I'm making a rat's nest of things right now. All right, that's correct. Let's see what my shot looks like. See if I could do this. Moving this guy. Oh, I should just get rid of it. But it's kind of hard to see the screen once I set up this thing. Yeah, maybe there. And then let's pull back. Whoa. This is not going to work, is it? Hold on. So I set up this OMX, which is a computer keyboard MIDI controller. I think it's a good example for just playing MIDI notes. I'm just trying to set up the camera so we could see everything. Something like that, maybe? All right. I'm going to get rid of these MIDI mappings. Go into my MIDI settings, make sure everything else is okay. So I went over this before in the past, but let's go over it again just for people who don't know. This track MIDI input section down here where it has a channel per every single track on the M8, as well as the instrument number, and then some options. This is not for recording MIDI input notes. This is just for like if you want to jam along with something that's playing back on the M8, or you use M8 as kind of a MIDI module. That's kind of this whole section is for that. And these instrument numbers are can respond to program changes. So these will change automatically with program changes. So this stuff down here is more like for basically turning the M8 into a MIDI module that you can control with an external sequencer or keyboard. What I really want to show you here is the record channel, which I think is set to 9. The velocity is turned on, and the delay kill, I just now turned it on just for the demonstration. Let me create a new phrase here. And I'm going to change the channel on this if I remember how. Oh, that's not what I wanted to do. There we go. This octave. All right, so right now this MIDI keyboard is set up for channel 9, and in the MIDI settings on M8, channel 9 is the record channel. This works pretty well for just, you could browse the instrument screen and actually, preview the sounds on a keyboard. You could also preview them on the phrase as well, but as soon as the cursor's in the note column, it'll start inserting them. And if you just start playing the sequence, you see how it automatically inserted these weird commands over here. One of them's a delay, so it's actually trying to record it as unquantized as it can be. And then the kill command, which is basically our note off. And it automatically tries to find the first free column to put those commands into. I normally have those turned off, but that's just me. Yeah, that is this feature right here, record, delay, and kill commands turned off. And then there's a velocity on or off, and it's currently on by default. And it'll work across multiple phrases. If you have multiple set up here, it should just start recording across all of them. Yeah, so you get the idea. That if you're using headless, using the MIDI channel 9 is basically pretty much the same thing as using your computer keyboard to enter in notes, the whole key jazz thing. If you're using at least the Touch Designer version of the headless thing, I don't know if it's implemented across all of the variants, but it's the same sort of mode. Yeah, so if anybody else has any other questions, else we can move on to a shiny new topic. Any praise or hate? I'm open for that too. Also, if anybody has any songs, now's your chance to send me a link to your bundle. Mikey says, MIDI implementation is so well done, and I'm sitting here thinking, it's pretty basic. You know, it works for the most part. It's not, you know, for what it is, it's good, I think. Because we're talking about a limited tracker that's basically, you know, 8 mono voices, so we kind of get what we get. Any plans for metronome or count in for recording like that? That would be good to add. So maybe. Maybe is a good answer. I mean, you know, you could do that as well by setting up. It just takes a little bit more legwork for you to just set up a tick track. And then your count in is essentially, as soon as your cursor is set onto the note column, it'll start. It's not quite the same, but it's a workaround for now anyway. So moving on to another topic, I think. Oh, wait. I feel like I've asked this before, but is there a way to auto stop recording the sampler for perfect loops? That's an entirely different topic. Yeah, HopFF will stop the recording, I think. I thought we tested that. I'm pretty sure it does. But I don't know if it's still a perfect loop because depending on what your gear is and everything else, what the latency is. Personally, I like to have everything, I stop recording shortly after the phrase is done, so that way I could cut off exactly where the note starts on the next measure and just cut that off, and then that way I know for sure that it's a perfect loop. Because if there's any latency amongst MIDI or on the external gear, or if you're using I don't know, virtual instrument or something like that, there's always going to be a little bit of delay. Or if you're using USB on the M8, there's going to be some delay in that recording. So stopping it right when it finishes the measure wouldn't be a perfect loop. Can you use the M8 sampler recorder while using a MIDI input like a keyboard? I don't know. I know it won't work on samples, but I've never tried that. Well, I mean, it won't record its own output, so yeah. So you would still need an external piece of gear to control, I think, for the sampler. The sampler itself doesn't have input to the output of the M8, if that makes any sense. The normal way to render stuff from the M8 itself is to use the render feature and not the sample recorder. I know it's confusing. All right, so I don't remember if somebody asked this at some point. I just wrote it down to cover, but we're going to talk about stems and how to use the M8 as a stem player. I believe I covered this before, but I don't know if I covered it fully. So I'm going to show you all some of that. So is this big enough? Should I increase the font size? You should probably be able to see it okay, I think. This is one of my old songs, Divided Skies. It was some compilation I think it was written for. It's got a lot of tracks in it, and a lot of drum stuff. But how I do stemming is I separate all of my tracks into track groups, the groups that I want to be stemmed out. This is just my process. Everybody has their own way. But for me, it's like I have as many melodies as I want to separate out, and the pulse is probably the Game Boy or NES style pulse. Bass synthesis, noise, and then all the percussion as one track. So I first group everything together in accordance to the number of stems I want for this song, the number of individual final tracks that I'm going to use in something like M8. The next step I do is, since M8's sampler has a loop offset position and a start offset position, and those are in a range of 0 to 255. For me to really take advantage of that, I want to have my entire song length be in a power of 2 division, so that way I could control precisely, like on a perfect note, like where I want to start the offset of a stem. So on this track, you can see I already have it. I have it stopping at the 128th measure, which means if I'm going to sequence this out in M8, I could break this up into little tiny song parts. Every 2, so if I put the sample offset to 2, it'll start off on the second measure. If it's offset by 4, it'll be on the third measure, et cetera, et cetera. So that way I could basically chop this whole thing up on the M8 itself, using the limited, range parameters of sample offset and start. So I rendered out basically all 6 of these as separate samples on the M8. And we'll switch over to the M8 and I'll show you these samples and how I use them in there. But the important thing to keep in mind is I normally try to keep my number of measures either at 128 measures or 256 measures if I need more, room. And that will allow me to slice everything really exactly on the M8. So let me switch my view and my SD card, and I'll show you what I did with these samples. Or, well, we'll do it in real time. Because, why not? Let's switch over to this. Let me set this up real quick because we don't need the hardware anymore. Whoa. Bear with me. Making it easy to see. All right. I'm going to switch out the SD card. Those stems on it. started a new project. Whoa, need to move that. New. I'm going to insert a chain, insert a phrase, insert a note, change this to sampler, and go to where I put those stems, which divided. Probably turn up my volume. Let's just do that one. So I'm gonna maybe turn up the volume here a little bit. Set this to the right tempo. I think it's 128. Yeah. Change these. Let's see how long this takes me to set up from scratch. All right, so I'll show you. Let me copy this. I'm gonna paste it. I'm gonna deep clone it. I'm gonna clone this instrument and pull in the next sample. I'll do the drums, which I think is probably this one. No, that's the bass. Let's see, where is our drums? There we go. So our drums will be, you remember when I said I sliced it at 128, which means like any of these start offset values land perfectly on the beat because of that, which is super convenient for setting up the song to be like this and this. Let me deep clone that. Put our starts in all the tracks. Start 0 on. Bear with me. See, track 1 will play sample 2. Track 3 will play sample 3. Track 4 will play 4. Oops, did I mess this up? No, I didn't. Okay. Let's see. So on 4, well, let me clone that to 5. So what I'm doing is I'm just setting up all of the tracks right now, playing all of the stems by just copying and pasting. 7? I guess there's no 6. I don't know if I forgot how to count. 0, 1, 2, 3, 2, 3, 4, 5 with a start offset. Where you at? Yeah. So that one's just looping over and over again because I messed up on my cloning. There we go. So I'm gonna do the selection. I'm gonna do a deep clone of all of them. I think it might be 10. Let's see. That should be right. It's a little bit of a hiccup. That might be the tempo slightly offset. Make that 20. So the advantage of doing that 128 measure is now is everything lands perfectly together. Hopefully this makes sense. 30. Yeah. So that's how I do stems on the M8. Obviously, it makes really little sense for me to do stems of a Game Boy-like sound because I could just resynthesize that in the M8. But it's nice to be able to play back stems alongside of the synthesis that are on the unit. I think I have some of these done. I think I already have Divided Skies even done, so. Yeah. Does anybody have any questions or? Pretty far away from my computer. Yeah, I think that's my idea. Is what I want to do in the future for my live sets is kind of do remixes of a lot of my old tracks by using stems in conjunction with the M8's internal synthesis and or other samples playing. But cutting up the samples like that and in that 128 measure or 256 measure allows you to instantly do like kind of choppy remixes if you want to, knowing that everything kind of lands, you know, on a value. If you don't do that, then you'll never be able to find exactly where the start of a new measure is at, and it gets really frustrating. Yeah, that, I think I'm done showing off my stuff. I don't know if, A Rival, if you want to do some drum synthesis stuff at this point. Question marks? If you could hear me, I don't know. Maybe they zoned out. He fell asleep. Yeah, I could also play back some songs that have been submitted. Just give me a moment. I'll start setting that up. I so far have three songs lined up. I just have to copy over the files. Oh yeah, a rival. If you want to jump in, you can now. I'm just setting up user submitted songs. So if you got a mic, you could use it. If not, I will just continue to copy over songs. If it wasn't for the last minute. Also, if anybody has any questions or anything else you want me to cover, feel free to ask and I will try to answer.
Testing 1, 2, 3.
Hey, there you are.
Sorry about that. I was upstairs eating a sandwich.
How was it?
It was okay. You know, not the best, not the worst. It was cool.
Saturday sandwich.
Yeah. All right. So let's see if I can do this again. Let's try to make this happen. Remember, okay. All right, we gotta try it.
What's that? Oh man, it's like connection dropout
Poppin'
kind of
over
stuff.
there?
As soon as you started streaming your
Oh.
screen, your audio started breaking up.
Okay, let me try some stuff.
Just tell everybody else to stop using the internet.
Is the voice back to normal?
Yeah, I can hear you just fine.
That's terrible. Okay. Well,
Maybe it's something with the internet.
it sounds like hard, like you know, like buffer errors or something ridiculous like that.
Yeah.
I don't know why it's so bad. I'll try one more time, and if not, then I'll just dip out for now.
Boo.
Let's see here. With the video. All right.
Did it not work? Oh, there we go.
Get or
Say something.
yeah, it's chopped. It's chopping. I don't know what's going on.
I would blame internet.
It's so ridiculous.
You could blame Headless.
Maybe.
Blame
See,
me.
Can you hear that or no?
Yeah.
You can hear the M8?
Yeah.
And you can see it?
Yeah.
What? That's
Yeah.
fine?
Yeah, that's fine.
Oh God! All right. I don't know. I enabled my webcam that's not plugged in, and now it works. So okay,
Welcome to
everybody.
the future.
Yeah. All right. So I'm going to break down this track a little bit, but specifically, I'm going to break down drum synthesis in this track. I don't know if y'all know, but typically when I do M8 stuff, I do all FM, no other synth, because the FM synthesizer is so cool. So yes, if you guys didn't hear last week, this is my sort of like drum step track. And I have a bunch of drums in here that I have as presets. Yeah, which was this one? I have some risers, drums, like all the typical ones. But yeah, let's go through some of these presets and see if we can build them from scratch as well. So this is the kick synth Kicky New FM. I have a few FM kicks, but when Tim added the LFOs that were tick based, then it really everything got real at that point. So when you're talking about kick drums, they have 3 distinct parts. I mean, that's what I know. I mean, you may not have the same school of thought when it comes to drums, but with me, there's 3 parts, and they go in a sequence. The first part is the transient, which is like the,
It's the
and
clicky part.
typically, yeah, it's the clicky part, and I just use noise for kick drums for the transient, a very small noise. So I'm gonna actually. So one thing to keep in mind here is algorithm. It doesn't really matter which ones you use, but a good thing to have is I like having the algorithm A because of the bare oscillators on the end. So I'm going to use no matter what, which is probably the noise. So this will not be affected by any other oscillator. But if I want to add like overtones or something like that, I like having like a bare like sine oscillator or something like that. I can throw in there. Here I didn't, but then I could do some other stuff here with FM on this side. So this is basically a 2 operator and then 2 bare oscillators right here, 2 carriers. So anyway, let me mute the parts and show you what I did. So for the transient, that's the noise. These mods, right, even though I'm not using them here, they're all being affected by the LFO on the LFO screen right here. So I have LFO2, and LFO2 is going to mod 2, of course. And exponential down T for tick bass is what I use for all the drums. It's just fast. It has a great shape, and you could sometimes get away with using the ramps, but I typically just do the exponential ones because it's more like what an actual kick drum or snare drum is like. So for the noise, I have the exponential down with tick based. You have to put this stuff on hold as well, or else it'll repeat. And if you do once, it'll go back to the starting position when it's done, and that'll add like a click, which is terrible. So it'll sound like this. Yeah, we don't want that. So we want the hold. So yeah, if you took this and put it on once, and then I took off this volume automation over here, then it would just be noise. It'd be nasty. So anyway, so that's the transient part, and then the second part is like the little bump part. That is like it's like the thump of it, like the, and then the third part is the, right. It's the sub at the very end of it, So in like I've done kicks where I have them separate, the second and third parts, but lately I've just been doing them together. So what I did here is I have my sine, and yeah, hold on one second. One sec. Give me a second. I think my baby just woke up for the nap.
Uh-oh. That's really cool. I didn't think about using the tick bass features for percussion. I should have thought about using that, but it's
Yeah, I
super
actually
convenient for that, doing that that quick
it's
transient. Yeah.
it was a game changer for drums because I'll actually show you what it sounds like. So this is what it sounds like normally, right? But if I change this to ramp down, wait, no, let's go to exponential down. See, it's too big of a curve. Like it doesn't go down fast enough.
Right.
So you just get like these kind of dumb kicks, and then you can kind of fix them by, but they're not
dialing in your
super
range.
punchy.
Yeah.
But then if you go back to the tick based ones, oh man, I never can. Oh god, I'm lost. Yeah, then it sounds good. So on top of that, so that's on that's automating number 1, right? Mod 1, and mod 1 is tied to the pitch here, and pitch and ratio are similar, but pitch seems to be a little bit sharper, so I just use that. Also, I use one on level for this other oscillator over here, which is just trying to add like a little more dirt on the very beginning of the curve. So without it, it sounds like this. It sounds the same, honestly, but it's like subtle to the very beginning of the transient. So yeah, see, you can hear it. So anyway,
It's
so
just shaping that initial when it initially
Exactly.
starts. Yeah.
so I have a low pass automated as well, but if you take it off, kind of sounds more like an acoustic kick. But that just takes out the high information after the transient. So that's how I have it in the song. But yeah. Anyway, so speaking of the transient, let's hear what it sounds like with higher transient without it. And then so yeah, depending on what your style is, you can just do either way. So I just had it at 8, I believe. And also I have some amp upward a little bit just to make it louder. But the thing about amp is, if you look at the waveform on the top, if once you get into the higher amperages, you can see it start to square off. So if you want to increase volume, you can actually just turn up the dry, and typically in songs, I just make it smash against the limiter, which is, it seems to be work pretty good for this type of loud ass music. So I do a little bit of amp just right below the threshold of it clipping. And then, yeah, then it sounds okay. And then I have volume automation here, a little bit of hold. I actually have an oscillator, oscilloscope on on my iPad that's viewing everything, so I can actually look at the shape of it. So if you have an external oscillator or oscilloscope somewhere, it's actually really useful. But yeah, this is what it sounds like. If you take the volume and you extend it, you can get some nice, some big boomy kicks. Let me get rid of this real quick. So that's good for effects and stuff like that. You can also slow down or speed up the hump or the bump. So you can get some of like some really fat, like maybe that could be good for like some other genre, like something like you can. Anyway, so yeah, so that's a kick. So the kicks are pretty cool, I think. Let me reload this real quick. So let's go back to the snares. So snares, drums is what I probably spent the most time on, just because I was trying to get the perfect FM snare again. Once the exponential down tick based LFO came out, then I had to rethink the entire thing. So you can probably do a lot of this stuff in the table, but I really like how it sounds with the LFOs, because it's smooth, and I don't think tables are, right? Am I correct?
Yes.
All right.
Yes,
So check it.
they are not smooth.
Yeah. So this is much better. Okay. So I'm gonna take the reverb off.
But you could probably get like a really, really short, clicky transient using the table with a super fast speed.
Oh yeah, I was thinking about that too.
If
I
you
wish
just
that
want to
had
have that initial click sound be even
Yeah.
shorter, that I think
Mhm.
that's probably the shortest way you could get it. I
For
think.
sure. It's pretty. It works pretty well with just the one tick exponential down. But anyway, let's check out the snare. So this is the 909 snare, but I'm calling it the rival snare. Same setup as before with A, but this time I'm not doing that much stuff to the rest of these. It's mainly just the initial transient / bump of the snare that I'm really concerned with. So again, this is all exponential down with the tick based. Hold. You always got to use hold, and then the frequency of the pitch is like 1 tick, so as short as you can get it. Again, you can use the table maybe, but I like how it sounds here. And then the volume 2 is the level of it. So this allows me to get a really short transient and hump. So that's what it sounds like in the song without the noise. With snares, I tend to distort them. I just like the way they sound when they're distorted. I put the dry all the way up. I put a little bit of high pass too. You don't have to do that, but I like to clean it up a little bit. But anyway, then over here, I have a noise oscillator going into a sine oscillator. And the reason I do that is because, and the sine oscillator also has some feedback, because I can get some sort of like kind of different timbres of noise if I'm doing it that way instead of just using a noise oscillator straight up. So that's what it sounds like with it. But if you turn down the noise, you'll hear it. So then you can do some cool sounds.
Sounds pretty great.
Yeah, I think it turned out well. So you can do some cool like tonal like. I don't know what else. Anyway, it sounds wild. But yeah, so
That's the same way I write music on the live stream too.
just throw it in there. Okay, so yeah, if you turn up the noise going in, you can still hear it in the background, right? That overtone in there.
Yeah.
If you turn it up, then you lose that, but it's still kind of in there. So that's why I like having that in there, because it seems a little more like an acoustic drum. So yeah, so I also have the volume shaping here. You can turn down the delay, and then turn up the hold, and you can get those crazy snares that are like, yeah, a little bit like that. So, oops, hold on, let me put this back. Oh my God. You know what? I'm just going to reload the project.
When in doubt.
It just have too many instruments. I have so many instruments in there. So, yeah, here's the kick again. If we want, they can turn up that transient and then turn off the low pass filter on the kick. Went back to the kick. Sorry. That actually makes it sound a little more like an acoustic kick, I think. So yeah, that's the snare drum. The snare drum is really good. I'm gonna drop these presets into resources. So that's why I'm talking about them right now. So here's the hi-hats. So these, basically I just shoved a bunch of like random oscillators in here. Like I have the sine wave at some weird, I tweaked them to be at weird ratios, and then I usually feed them pretty hard into themselves, because when you take the noise, or the sine, and you feed back into itself, it turns into noise. And then if you put more sine into it, you just get weirder noise. And then I have this other sine over here. I don't know how much I really need this one.
Dialed to taste.
Yeah. But yeah, the most important part though, I like this is like easy mode hi-hats is high pass them, really high up there. That's what the high pass. And then I have volume, the decay. That actually doesn't look very short. But hold will actually make stuff feel like it's held on for longer. Anyway, and then I have a LFO of pan on it, going back and forth, so that the hi-hats are going super fast back and forth, and then they sound like they're stereo. I don't know. It's probably not stereo on the stream, is it?
It is for some. I just realized
Oh,
that.
That's crazy.
Do we have stereo now, or?
Uh-oh. Yeah, so that's it. So then I got the different volumes. I had also played with the decay of the hi-hat. Is that bigger or less?
It's probably less.
I think it's more. Yes? No? Maybe?
I don't know.
I don't know either. Yeah, I think it's like that. So that takes care of that. So I think that's it for the drums in the song, honestly. Yeah. I have some boom kicks over here, which is the same kick patch, but I made the decay of the which one is this? What's DE? Envelope 1 decay. Yes. I make it really long. So the cool thing about synthesizing your own drums is you can just like change them up in real time with the commands, and like it'll sound great. You don't have to search for another sample or whatever, to like have a long kick. So yeah, that's it. That's all I really wanted to go over. I'll throw after this, I'll zip them up and throw them into resources. Is there any questions? Is anybody even asking questions?
We're all just blown away in silence.
Yeah. Oh yeah. So, real quick, when you're making music like this, typically there's other ways to do this, but I definitely use the table sidechain, right? So basically these tables, this is another reason why I don't really use tables in my instruments, is because I like to duck them with the table. So here I have the regular volume automation right here, right? So all of this goes from 0 to full for the volume, right? You can hear it. But the other thing that I'm doing too is the reverb volume. Oh my God, whoops. So yeah, I have the reverb volume also going from 0 to whatever the reverb volume is. And this is supposed to be the decay volume as well, or the delay volume. But I just realized that it just has the reverb commands copied in the decay. So this really should be the delay column. So I'm trying to duck not only the volume of the instrument, but the reverb volume and the delay volume, so that you get a full sidechain. Yeah.
Whoops.
So yeah. Oops. Yeah. And I have it ducking on both the kick and the snare drum. It really helps a lot with the drum groove. And I have a bass patch and a sub patch, in case you're wondering. And I have this crazy sound playing in the background to fill space. It's just like this weird, like, panning, like, annoying sound that I kind of have low in the background, because that makes it sound full. So yeah. Here's without the sub. With the sub, makes a huge difference. Anyway, so yeah, that's it. I think that's all. I've been here for a while, so I kind of want to get out. So
Now you know how I feel.
yeah, it's hard. It's tough.
It is.
Anyway, any questions before I go? Or is that all good?
So you're gonna be putting together a preset pack with those samples?
Yeah. I'm just gonna. Yeah, you know what? Maybe I should just export a bundle of this song.
You could, and then it just creates all the presets when you bundle it.
Yeah, I'll just do that. Yeah, I'll throw it in there. But I have to go see if my baby's okay.
That sounds more important.
Yeah. He's all right. Mom went and got him, but he woke up and was like, I have the monitor right next to me, and he was saying, "Papa." Oh no. So I had to text real quick. Okay. Anyway, thank you so much. Yeah. So give me a little bit.
Thanks so much for sharing. Yeah.
Hey, no problem. I'll see you later.
All right. Let me switch this around, if I remember how. Share my screen. We're going to play some songs submitted. Of course, I guess now we have stereo for Discord, so in the future, people can just play their songs back if they want to themselves. Whoa, what did I just do? Oh, the camera set up perfectly. All right. This is going to be awkward for me. My M8's like on the other end of the studio, away from the computer for that the gear stuff I was doing earlier. Let's see what we got. So this song's called Fried Guts, and it's by Krang Bay, I believe. Thanks for submitting. Make sure I got my volume set up right. I'm sorry, I stopped that because that's my bad. I have too many wires plugged in. I'm going to restart. I'm going to back up a little bit and restart because I totally butchered this song. I'm so sorry about that, Cranebait. Thank you so much for submitting that track, and I'm sorry again for messing it up. Some of the wires in my M8 pressed on that the OMX Midi keyboard controller while your song was playing, so it just started like playing random notes. That's why we can't have nice things.
No, not yet.
Hey, Inbox, you're on mic. All right, so these next two songs are by Avril Cadabra. Brigand? Is that how you pronounce that? Thank you so much. That was the second song called Metal by Avril Cadabra. Yeah. Thank you so much for submitting these songs. I think we're reaching to the point of the end of the meetup. Yeah, thank you everybody for joining. We will be doing another one of these, I believe, in 2 weeks. Yeah. So if anybody has any topics or ideas for topics or things you want to share, reach out to me or, reach out to me on Discord and we'll figure it out. I'm going to be pretty dang busy trying to get these units ready for shipping. But hopefully there'll be more updates here soon. There'll especially be another update on the production on our next meetup in 2 weeks. So thanks everybody for joining. Hope you have a rest of your good weekend and yeah. See you all later.